So for me, one of those really big projects is FinCap Friday, which we'll take a look at today. And it's a video series that comes out each week and covers personal finance topics that range, depending on what's kind of happening in the media. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a couple of different examples. But first, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of share a bit more about who Ngpf is as an organization. So we are a nonprofit organization. Everything that we do is not for profit, and we definitely focus on expanding access to more students getting personal finance as a guaranteed class before they graduate. So really ensuring that it's a required course for a full semester so that every kid takes it before they graduate. And so we started about 6 years ago, and our co-founders, Tim and Jessica, decided that it wouldn't make sense to create a curriculum for personal finance without talking to personal finance teachers. So they asked hundreds of teachers, hey, what is it that you need or want from a curriculum in personal finance? And what they found was an overwhelming majority of the teachers said similar responses, which kind of boiled down to these 4 concepts that we call the 4 C's. So the first one is comprehensive. They want a one-stop shop, everything in one place so that you're not scouring the web trying to find resources on Sunday night for your Monday lesson, really trying to make sure that you have a really wide range of resources all in one place. And then customizable, making sure that teachers have the authority and the ability to make changes to the curriculum. When I was a classroom teacher, I taught 3rd and 4th grade for a few years. And I remember I used to take the workbooks and I would photocopy one of the pages in the workbook. And then with whiteout, I would cover up anything that I wanted to change or tweak, like names or like the businesses, just to make it a little more relevant to my students. And then I would go ahead and look at like what are the different names I could include, maybe my students' names or maybe the name of another teacher, and I would make those changes and then photocopy the new version that I changed. So we're just trying to find a current modern way to give teachers ability to do that, to change the curriculum so that you don't have to feel like you need to use a curriculum that's not relevant to your students or meeting the needs that you have. So the next C is curated, which means that we're going to go on the web and find the best videos and the best activities and bring them to you so that you don't have to go searching YouTube for a great video. You can actually search our video library, which is a much smaller database of videos. And finally, the last C is current. We got to try to make sure everything that we're teaching our students is as up to date as possible and current. Because what we notice is that things are changing very quickly. Technology is changing things quickly, legislation changes. And so we have to make sure what we're teaching students is up to date and is accurate information. So we're on the web, which means that we have the good fortune of being able to change things very quickly on our website. So for example, when everything changed for 2019 Tax Act, we made sure that all of our resources in the taxes unit were up to date with the Tax Act. So just things like that. All right, so our mission is called Mission 2030, and we recently put the stake in the ground and said that all students are going to have a 1-semester personal finance course before they graduate from high school because of the work that we're doing. So it's a big mission. How in the world are we going to do that? Well, we first of all know that in order for every kid to have access, it has to be free, because there's going to be some schools where they just don't have the budget. They just don't have, the funding to be able to pay for curriculum. So everything we do is free, including the 3 core components of our mission, which are the curriculum. Curriculum is free on our website. Teacher PD, high quality, engaging, interactive, online PD is always free, and it's available 12, 15, 16 times a week. We have so many sessions every day that you can participate in. And then finally, advocacy. So helping teachers have a toolkit that you can use to advocate to your school board for a required course. All right, so how can we hook students virtually? What are the virtual adaptations that have really been working for us? The first one is to connect to social media. Students are on social media, and if they're not on it themselves, they're hearing about it, they're buzzing about it, it's everywhere. So we have to make sure what we're teaching is actually relevant to what they're seeing online, and getting them to recognize that financial decision-making actually connects to the way that they spend their time, and a lot of it is scrolling on social media. And then also we want to look at aligning all of our instruction to this digital era. So we have a couple of different tips for you and virtual adaptations, including a virtual career day, including online tools and apps, which is a resource that you can use for any unit that you like, whether that's using it for budgeting, using it for insurance, using it for investing and saving, budgeting, etc. And then we also have FinCap Friday, which I'll share a way that you can continue to do FinCap Friday, even if you're remote or virtual. All right, so let's take a look at the first activity, how to connect to social media. So this is a student activity that comes from our behavioral finance mini unit. And it has a lot of really great lessons in that unit that have to do with your values and money. How do you behave around money? What are the things, regarding money that that you maybe disagree with somebody else on, but for you, it's a very personal important value that you have that connects to money. Really getting students to think about that, and then having them apply that to the way that they scroll on social media and get influenced by social media to spend money. So when they do the series of activities, this is the last one, or this is one of the ones in the last activity in the last unit, or the last lesson of this unit. And their goal is to really take a look at what is it that's happening on social media that's influencing them to spend their money, whether they want to or not, or whether they plan to or not. So it's a really great activity. I'm going to open it up and I'm actually going to share it in the chat box so that you can check it out. And again, it's in our behavioral finance mini unit, but feel free to open up the activity from the link in the chat box. So what you see when you open up this activity is that you have to categorize a few different tactics. So there's tactics that social media marketing and advertising companies are using to try to convince students to spend their money, and adults, honestly, not just students, everybody, to spend their money. And so on my slides, I actually put the top 5 that we focus on in a chart here. So aspirational buying is a tactic used very often, bundling, eye candy, flattery, and freemium. So in this activity in the classroom, ideally, the way it would look is that students are working together to read through the article and identify those different terms or tactics. And then they're answering these questions based on that article. And then the great part about this is they go to a computer or an iPad, whatever is available in their workstations at school, and they research what are the different ways that I can see this in action online. I can go on Facebook and check for these ads, go on YouTube and find examples of this. Amazon uses these types of tactics, Instagram. So they're going online to find examples. Now, obviously, if you're not in the classroom, we're going to have to make some virtual adaptations for this. And the virtual adaptation for this is actually linked on the top right corner of this activity. So you see it says virtual adaptation ideas, and that will lead you to a blog post that has lots of ideas about how to virtually adapt it. But I actually just want to point out one really great one today, which is pretty popular. And we released it on the blog, and it's just a quick Google form. So instead of having your students go to the internet and search for examples, they're having to do a lot of work. They're having to research, identify the tactic, and then evaluate it. It's a lot of skills across Bloom's taxonomy versus if you keep it super basic so that they really grasp the concept, and you just keep it at identify. Keep it at that very basic skill. So that's what this Google form does. It simplifies it and it makes it easy to do virtually. So here is, quick intro prompt. Every day we're bombarded with ads. They're trying to convince us to do something, buy something, eat something, or look a certain way and more. So this activity reviews 5 ways that ads try to influence us. So the great thing is at the top, they have the chart. They can refer to it if they kind of like forget which tactic means what. So they always have that there to refer to, an anchor chart. And then when you scroll down, they actually have the quiz, right? So here's a Facebook ad. What is the selling tactic is being used in this Facebook ad? So they can look at the Facebook ad and see, oh, okay, I see that if I get all 3 of these products, I'll pay $12.99 a month rather than buying them individually or separately and paying a higher price. So they can go back up and see, okay, which one of these tactics is being used. And we give tons of examples. They can see a magazine ad, they can see a TikTok ad here, an Instagram ad from Spotify. And these are real examples that we've pulled off of social media. Like, I'm not making these things up, I'm pulling them from social media so that they can see, okay, what is happening when I'm on social media? And hopefully they recognize some of these ads and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that ad. And now they're aware, like these companies are actually really trying to get me to spend money every day. So I have to work hard to keep my dollars in my pocket so I can save. So these are kind of the thought processes we want students to be going through with this example. So I'm going to share the link to this Google form in the chat box. It's a really great one, and you can definitely use this exactly as it is, or you can make a copy of it and adapt it in any way that you want. You can add other examples that you might have, or you might ask your students to produce examples and then put those examples in a quiz. So you can kind of switch it up any way that makes the most sense for your class. But this is a really, really great activity. The students enjoy it. It's relevant. It's timely. They know that social media is, what's going on, and they recognize that this stuff is happening. The great thing about the activity is it has some really awesome questions that ask students to reflect. So they can go down here and kind of think, what is an item or an experience that you paid for in the last year that was affected by one of these tactics listed above? So they can kind of go back and think, yeah, what is a time in my life where I was susceptible to these tactics? And, kind of think about, now that they're aware of these tactics, what are some ways that they can brainstorm ideas to kind of help themselves combat or fight against their urge to purchase things that they see on social media. So again, just kind of getting students to really think about the financial decision making that they make, the process of financial decision making, and hopefully the next time they're on social media, instead of clicking something and buying it, they might stop and think twice and say, actually, this is one of those things, right? This is one of those tactics trying to get me to spend money. I don't need this. I don't need these products. I don't need this thing right now. I'm going to actually just keep scrolling and take a look at some of my friends' updates, right? So hopefully the point is to get them to think twice and to kind of pause and think before spending money, especially if it's mindless spending. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move along to a second activity, but I have provided both the virtual adaptation link for the Google form and the activity. I think this is a really, really great one to check out. So the second example that I want to share, and of course, I'll provide time for you to really just explore and ask any questions that you might have as well. But the second one is a student activity called the Bean Game. And I actually just did a virtual PD called Teaching Remotely, Play the Bean Game. And with the Bean Game, the ideal situation, right, the ideal environment would be that students would go into their classroom and they would sit down with their group of classmates or maybe a partner. And in that group of, with their partner, they would work together to create a budget. Or maybe they would do this individually. It really depends on, as a teacher, how you might want to set this up in your classroom. But the way the activity ideally would be situated is that the students are working physically on a desk, and they have this map here that you would have printed for them. And the great thing about it, doing it that way in the ideal setting, is that it's tactile. You would actually use beans or maybe seeds or something like that to go on here and select each budgetary category, how much you would want to spend in each category. So for example, for housing, if you live with family and share the costs of your utilities and your bills, you would only have to put 2 beans into this particular category. But if you want to share an apartment with your friends or with some roommates, that's going to cost you 3 beans, because it's going to be a bit more pricey since you're not sharing the cost with family. You have to now pay for your own room. You have to get your own Wi-Fi. You have to get your own gas and electric bill set up. And so you're going to pay a bit more. And then the final one, which is 4 beans, the most expensive option for housing, is to rent your own place, to have your bachelorette pad or your bachelor pad where you live by yourself. And obviously that's like really awesome for a lot of students that graduate to think that they want to live alone. But the reality is it's really expensive. So they'll go through this activity, and it's adapted from a game called 20 Bean Salaries. So we stuck to that, where every student has to have 20 beans. So they cannot spend more than that. Now, obviously in the classroom, you could control that, because you could walk around and make sure every student has 20 beans and no more or no less. So that's the ideal environment. Of course, we're looking at virtual adaptations. We can't do this physically in a tactile way with the kids. So instead, here, there's a link that says, click here to implement virtually instead. And so when you click on that link, it'll take you to the blog post on the Ngpf website, which has a very detailed explanation of how to adapt this in a virtual environment. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to this blog post in the chat box so that you have it. And the great thing about the blog post is it gives really good examples. So it says, if you are in a virtual setting, you're teaching remotely, you can use a virtual game instead, where instead of making choices with beans, students are making choices with numbers in a spreadsheet. And at the top right-hand corner of the map, students will see that their current spending amount. And if it surpasses 20, right? If they spend more than 20 beans, the cell will change to red, which immediately indicates to them that they are over budget and they need to start reallocating their budget. So let me show you what that looks like. If you click on the virtual map link, it will take you to the spreadsheet that we've developed. And if, as a teacher, if you like it and you want to use it, you can just go to File, make a copy, and you can make your own copy of this spreadsheet, save it in your Google Drive, and then you can share it with your students so that they can come in here and work together to create their budget. A pro tip, if you're going to use this virtually, is to make sure that when you make your own copy, when you create your spreadsheet, you want to make sure to have the share settings set to anyone on the internet with the link can edit. Because if you have anyone with the link can view, your students are not going to be able to change the numbers and to actually participate in it actively. So you want to make sure you change this from viewer to editor so that anybody who gets the link can edit it. We're going to keep ours as view only because this is the template. We don't want teachers to change the Ngpf template. So I'm going to leave it as view, but pro tip to make sure you change yours to edit. So now your students come in here and it's the exact same bean map, right? It's the same bean map. Housing is the first section. And they have to decide, am I going to live with my family and share the cost of utilities? Am I going to share an apartment with my roommates and spend an extra bean? Or do I want to go all out and have my own place and spend 4 beans? So if they want to go all out, they would just type the number 4 under where it says choice. And we've made it very clear which cells the students should be manipulating because we put them in bright yellow. So you can tell your students, you shouldn't be typing into any cell that's not yellow. Okay, only type into the yellow cells. It makes it nice and easy for them to do virtually. Now, here's what happens. You go ahead and you go through each category and you decide, okay, I want to rent my own place and I want to have all my meals out away from home. I want to go, buy fast food or go to restaurants. And what happens as soon as you pass, I'm going to just put 20 here just as an example. As soon as you pass 20, you'll notice this corner here in the top right cell changed from green to red because you went over your 20 bean budget. If that were to happen, your students would be able to see it immediately and know, uh-oh, we need to make some changes here because we went way over budget. So it keeps a counter, it keeps a track of how many beans they spent and it keeps it green if it's 20 or less and changes to red if it's over 20. So this is just a great simple spreadsheet to use. And one of the great tips that I would say, that I would share is actually to put your students into groups, either groups of 3 or maybe partner in pairs, groups of 2, and then number the groups. So if you are using Zoom, a really great way to do this is to put everybody into breakout groups and have them, each breakout group has a number. So breakout group 2 would go to the tab that says group 2. And breakout group 3 would go to the tab that says group 3. And so each group has their own tab with their own budget to work on. And what's great about doing it all in the same spreadsheet, as opposed to giving every student their own spreadsheet, is that they can then go in here and do a virtual gallery walk. So they can compare, okay, what did they do over here in group 1? What choices did they make? And then let me compare that to my group, to group 3, and see what did group 1 value and prioritize compared to what my group chose to value and prioritize. And so that's a really great exercise in getting them to understand what kind of trade-offs people are willing to make when they're budgeting, because it's not so simple as to say everybody's budget should be the same, right? Budgets are personal. And this group might have prioritized food and eating out. This other group might have said, nah, we're okay with meal prepping as long as we can hang out, more and go to the movies every now and then, right? So every group's going to be different, just like every person's budget will be different. So this is a really great virtual adaptation that is very popular. And I'll also share on YouTube, we have a really great playlist. If you go to youtube.com, or actually I think it's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/, and I'll share this in the chat in a second, Ngpf at home. That is the playlist that allows you to see all of our top virtual adaptations in video form. So you can kind of see a video tutorial. And this particular one actually has its own video, the Bean Game. So as you watch the video, you can actually see where to find it on the website. If your parents have access to a printer at home, you can actually tell them, print this out at home and use seeds or beans to play. It's best that way. But if not, it actually explains how you might set up the spreadsheet, and all of the specific instructions are provided. So it's a really great video tutorial in case you, kind of forget the virtual changes that we've made. So I'll share that in the chat box, because I think it's a really great resource to have. So it's just a playlist called Ngpf at Home. All right, so I have a couple more to share, and then I want to just leave time for you to kind of explore the resources, click around, and ask any questions that you might have. Oh, whoops, I stopped sharing. Go back to my screen. All right, here we are. So I go back to my slides, and I want to just share one more resource, which is a digital era collection, I guess, a collection of resources. So we're thinking about how can we meet students where they are and think about the lessons that we would normally want to do in class and the activities we would normally want to do, but focusing on how they interact with digital media. So for careers, instead of bringing in speakers to your classroom and setting up a career day or having like a career day guest, what we've created is a virtual career day library of videos where you can actually go and have your students select what specific topics or what specific jobs they might be interested in. And the great thing about this is that they can then answer questions that you might have for them, or create questions that they might pose to these individuals who work in different careers. And after watching their video, they can contact them and ask them the question, because we've provided their contact information, or they can just write a written reflection about their their ideas around that particular career field, if it's something they might be interested in or not. And then we have mobile apps. We're really constantly thinking about ways to meet students, since they're mobile first, meet them where they are. So banking, instead of talking about going to a bank branch and cashing a check, that's just a thing of the past. Unfortunately, students are never going to be experiencing those things, or rarely, I should say, rarely experiencing those things. So what we want to focus on is, if a student does get a physical check, they're probably going to take a picture of it and upload it to a mobile banking app. So we want to talk about mobile apps and tell them about security and safety and how to use these apps. How do they work? So this activity called Research Online Tools and Apps allows students to go online and see different research, different blog posts to compare the different apps, whether they are budgeting apps, whether they are apps for investing, which are growing in popularity, etc. And then the final selection or option is ThinkCap Friday, which is to bring current events into the classroom. So the way that the ThinkCap Friday works is every week there is a new episode, and the episode starts with a 5-question quiz, which can either be a Kahoot that you share out to your students and they complete online with the Kahoot app or on the Kahoot website, or you can actually just project your slides if you choose to do the no tech version and go through the questions. So either way, your students have the opportunity to answer 5 questions about the current event topic. And then there's a video that summarizes that topic. So what I'm going to do now, I want to open it up to give you a few minutes to just explore these resources. So I'm going to share a link to this you see on my screen. And if you click on that link and open it up, what you will see is the exact slide that I just had, and you can actually click on each of the orange links or the blue links to check out the videos or to check out the actual resource. So I'll give a few minutes of just kind of work time. Drop any questions, reactions, thoughts, or comments into the chat box, and then I'm happy to answer them or to respond to those in the chat box. And in particular, if you do have questions about any of these resources or where to find these things on our website, I'd be more than happy to answer. So I'm gonna be quiet and give you some time to explore here. But of course, I'm here in the chat box if you need me. All right, we're gonna go ahead and keep exploring for another 2 minutes. And then I wanna open it up and ask you to share if you wanna unmute yourself or if you wanna drop comments in the chat and let me know, what resource did you look at? What did you like about it? And if there are any questions that you might have, you can also share those. So 2 more minutes and then we'll come back and share out. All right, let's go ahead and open this up. Make it a bit more interactive. Would love to hear your voices or even just see comments in the chat. What did you check out? What did you click on and explore? What did you think about the resource? And if you have any questions for me or comments to share, go ahead.
I checked out the video on the robo investors. I do think my kids will be a little fascinated by that. Obviously, it's an ed puzzle, so our Canvas won't work with it in, but if they open it up, they obviously will get the quiz as they go. So that's always a good thing that they're engaged.
Yeah, it's a great point. Sometimes in your own learning management system or platform, the interactive tools won't work, but if you give them the link, they can always open it up, go to that external site, participate, and then come on back to your learning management system. So it would probably be something you want to train your students to do regularly so that whenever you have activities like that, it's not troublesome for them. But yeah, I think ed puzzles are great. You can also, on ed puzzle, you can always click on the YouTube logo and just go to the YouTube video. And that way if you don't want to do an ed puzzle with the interruptions, with the questions, you don't have to. You can just have them watch the video and then discuss. But the ed puzzle version is kind of nice if you want to incorporate check for understandings along the way rather than saving all the questions for the end. But yeah, you do have that choice. But that's a great one. Anybody else want to share?
I also went into the virtual career and just looked at a couple of those videos and thought they were kind of interesting, and it would make students see actually where certain careers can be kind of, how can I say that a certain pathway for a career can actually go in different directions.
That's an excellent point. I think it's important for students to recognize that, if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, of course, you're going to want to go the medical school, legal, law school route. But otherwise, we put so much pressure on students to figure out what major you're going to study so you can get this career path. But most people will tell you their career path happened sort of naturally and maybe doesn't always directly connect to their major. As long as you have good communication skills and strong, writing skills, you can pretty much land a lot of different jobs in different career fields. So we shouldn't be letting students get the impression that their career is going to be limited, or the career paths will be limited based upon their major. And I like the fact that a lot of these folks talked about what they studied in school, and that it maybe might or might not correlate to what they do. But then the other thing I'll add too about the virtual career day, what I love about that project was every person was asked to mention, how did COVID-19 impact the work that you're doing? What was your life like in your job before COVID, and what is it like now? So again, emphasizing that we have to be relevant to right now. We can't, just kind of tell kids, well, this is a day in the life, because they're probably wondering, well, what about today? How does your job change when something like this pandemic impacts us all? So I really love that virtual career day series, because it's very relevant to what's going on right now, and it makes sure the students are aware that this isn't just some old collection of videos. This is actually stuff that's happening right now. So I really like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that, Dora. Anybody else want to share?
I was checking out your questions of the day. I use those a hell of a lot. I know in my classes, all virtual, it just helps the kids just type something into the chat, which is sometimes a struggle. And they're very topical of whatever I'm talking about that day. I can always find a question of the day to add in there. So those I love to use.
Yeah, that's great. Also, the question of the days comes out every single day. And obviously the name is question of the day, but if you want to register to get those questions of the days directly to your email, you can actually go to our website, go to ngpf.org, and I'll show you on our community tab where it says community. If you select on blog under the community tab, it will take you to our blog. And the great thing about our blog is it's published every day with new resources. So this was actually just our FinCap Friday that I published this morning about 401ks. And if you want the question of the day, it can come to your inbox every single day. And so you can see question of the day comes up pretty frequently, and the topics vary a lot. And so if you want it daily, regardless of what you're teaching, you can subscribe to the blog. And if you are more curious about like lining up the question of the days that you're teaching to what your instruction is, then you can definitely still sign up for the blog, which you can do over here. Follow blog via email, and you would just type your email address into here and make sure that you click subscribe. But if you wanted to check out the question of the days in a way that aligns more to your instruction, under the resources tab, you can go to question of the day. And this is true for all of our resources, but just want to model it. You go to the question of the day, and then you actually click on the unit that you're covering right now. So if you're in the middle of budgeting, you wouldn't want to ask students about driver's licenses because it doesn't necessarily correlate to budgeting. So you might actually just want to organize it this way, where you go to the budgeting unit, you click on it, and you can see the list of all the question of the days from the past that ask about a topic related to budgeting. So that every day you can have a topic, a question to like a do now or a bell ringer that directly lines up with what you're about to do for your instruction for that day or for that week, depending on the unit that you're studying. So that's a really easy way to find things that align to your instruction, is to just go by the unit, by category. And the same thing goes for FinCap Friday. If you're looking for current event series that align to what you're teaching, you can go to the FinCap Friday page. If you're teaching, investing right now, you can click on the investing unit and take a look at all of the FinCap Friday episodes that have to do with investing. So, again, lots of choice for you. And we try to mix them up to make them interesting. So this one's about sneakers, strong shoe game. Sneaker collecting is becoming this craze. And now there's actually companies that have really valuable stock, which are sneaker companies where you can resell sneakers on an online marketplace. So just really getting students to think about the things they're already interested in, like gaming and sneakers and, celebrities and things, and connect these topics to the financial, lessons that they're learning in the class. So this is a really great one. FinCap Fridays come out every week as well, just like on the blog, just like the question of the days. So a lot of variety there. All right, anybody else want to share anything else or final questions before we wrap up? Ooh, great question in the chat. So as new content is developed, is there an archive of previous content, such as question of the days or FinCap Fridays? So yes, absolutely there is. Anytime you're on the FinCap Friday page or the question of the day page, for example, you can click on the entire library. So the word archive, we use the word library to represent the archive. So if you click on the orange button that says, and view the entire library, it will take you to the archive, which is our spreadsheet that has every single question of the day or every single FinCap Friday episode that dates back to when they first started being published. So in this case, FinCap Friday started, I think, in August of 2018. So if I were to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, I can see episodes from August of 2018. Hacking, there was a big breach at Capital One at that time. Celebrities who are famous for being frugal, right? So really thinking about what are topics that are coming up throughout, time over and over again that we know can be staples. So one thing like I would like to say too here is if you are worried about like, oh, but this is from back in 2018, I would say it's still pretty relevant and you could probably still get away with using it with plus or minus minus 2 years time. So in 2021, the 2018 ones won't be as relevant, but you can definitely still get away with some of these because they're pretty big topics that can still be considered current events and relevant to this day and age. So things like catalogs, back in the day, we would shop using catalogs, and now it's all online. And so online shopping, even though that was a particular Amazon topic, online shopping is always going to be a trending current topic. So you can still get away with using some of the previous episodes in the archive, even if it's not like super, super timely from like maybe this month or this year, you can still get away with them. All right, so great question about archiving content. We definitely have lots of libraries of data for you, so you can find old content anytime you want. All right, so I think I have about 5 minutes left. So I just want to wrap up with a couple quick pieces of information for you. One being that tomorrow, our organization is having a virtual conference and it's called Making Finlit #relevant, meeting students where they are. So really thinking about creative ways to engage students currently. And one of the things that we're trying to do is get creative and have fun with the session. So I'm planning one called financial memes. So how to use memes in the classroom to teach students about money, because kids are, they're loving these memes. They're always posting memes online. And so how do we take advantage of that? So if you want to register for some of these sessions, there is a link in the chat box and you can go ahead and register for any of the sessions. You can register for just one or for all of them. It runs from 8 a.m. Eastern to, from 9 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern tomorrow. So you'll have the opportunity to sign up for any sessions you'd like. And then finally, I'll also share that we have a community of ongoing collaboration between financial educators on Finlit Fanatics, which is on Facebook. So if you are a Facebook user, say you can't come to our conference tomorrow, you're not always available for virtual PD, but you do want to be able to, talk to other financial educators, other economics teachers, other business teachers, other marketing teachers, and personal finance teachers. You can just join our Facebook group and it's closed for financial educators only. So you do have to request access to join. But once you're in, and you can, have conversations with other teachers. You can present challenges that you're facing and tell teachers that you want ideas about how to troubleshoot them. And you can also share resources like, hey, I created this rubric for this activity if anybody wants to use it. Or you can ask, hey, does anybody have a rubric for the budgeting game or for the bean game, right? I'm about to do it next week and I want to know if anybody has a rubric. And then you'll have tons of teachers come on and share resources and collaborate with you and respond to your comments. And then you can come and go as you want, right? It's on Facebook, so you can join whenever you're looking for some inspiration or some collaboration and engagement. It's a really great group and we just passed 5,000 members. So it's a big one, teachers from all across the country who teach financial education courses. All right, so that was my final little announcement, and I'll just leave you with my contact information in case anybody is looking to connect or you want more support as you're going through your semester teaching your course. We also shared our social media handles on the slide as well. So if you want to follow us on Twitter or on Instagram or on Facebook, all that information is up there. And then the email address on the screen is my personal email. So if you want to reach out to me with questions about today's session, about the resources that I shared, or really anything else that you might need support with related to the curriculum or to your course, feel free to shoot me an email, yaneli@ngpf.org, and I'll be sure to respond. Thank you so much for engaging today, for joining me in the session. And if you need any other information or resources, do not hesitate to contact me. And thank you, Cheryl, for hosting and facilitating and having me on today.
Yep. Thank you, Nellie. I appreciate you guys being here, and everything that Next Gen Personal Finance does, I know is great tools. For those of you that are still on the chat, and if you are available, the lunchtime program starts at 12:20, and I did the link in the chat. I got muted again. Sorry about that. The link should be in the chat box for you guys. Nellie just posted it again for you guys, along with the passcode. So hopefully you can join the lunchtime program. That should be a lot of fun on that end. And then you can actually see Nellie's next session at 1 o'clock as well, which is alternative assessments for personal finance. So at that, you guys have about 10 minutes before the next session starts. And thank you guys, everyone.